All right.
Look at me. I look snazzy.
Yeah, look at that.
Shiny is how I look. I'm shiny. Bright and shiny. I like this jacket.
Oh, yeah.
My mom got me this jacket for Christmas
Oh, wow.
a couple of years ago.
Huh.
Yeah.
No, you looking super cool.
It's
I'm
like-
a little, looking a little rustic.
That's not what you wore to the gig.
That's not what I wore to the gig. But just so we remember later, this is the June where summer would not come, and it just keeps raining.
Right.
And I think I was just out in the yard, and it was maybe 60 degrees out there.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's rained every day. It rained hard last night. There's been flooding.
All night long. Yeah, quite the spring.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. It's actually pretty nice.
And I'm headed to the Pacific Northwest tomorrow, Seattle area. Well, a couple hours north of Seattle in the San Juan Islands. And apparently it's actually going to be sunny there. So I am leaving Denver to go to Seattle to get some sun.
Which would never... That's not normally how it works.
Right. All right, so with the weather out of the way...
Yeah. Justin and Adrienne, Weather Weekly podcast. Yeah, lots of stuff this week.
It was a busy weekend.
Yeah, weekend at least, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You had 3 gigs with Cody. I had 2, because he did one acoustic set.
Yeah, we did acoustic, and we'll get to that. So let's not start there. Let's talk about your news.
My news? You might already know because, of course, y'all are friends and family listening to this podcast. But I am now on the roster for Diamond Empire Band as a bassist. So what that means, for those of you who don't know what Diamond Empire Band is it is a... It's a company that provides bands for weddings and corporate events and private parties. And they have a huge roster of people who play all the instruments and sing. And each gig, they pull together people who are available and who want to work together for that gig. And you show up, you get the set list from the singer maybe a week or a few days in advance. Mm-hmm. You show up and do the gig. And so you either need to learn really quickly or you need to have a pretty big rep in the first place. So I'm taking the tack of working up my repertoire now.
Right.
But
so
anyway,
you're ready to go.
I mean, I've already given private thank yous to people who encouraged me to do this, but I want to give a public shout out. Thank you to Nate Marsh, my bass teacher, and to Joe Mondragon, who teaches at Performance High, both for encouraging me and telling me that I was ready to do this, because the concept of being the level of musician who can show up to a gig and play with no rehearsal, play with people you might not have ever met, and play at a gig that's not just an open mic, but like somebody's wedding.
Right. That
has been very intimidating to me. I didn't think... I mean, I knew I could do that as a singer, but I never considered that I could do that as an instrumentalist. And when Nate... We were talking at the Hard Rock Cafe after the last showcase, and Nate talked about why the reasons he likes this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You get to network with other musicians, you get to see how other people play. It's a unique sort of challenge.
Right.
And some other reasons. It changed my mind about what this situation is.
Sure.
Where previously I thought, oh my God, a gig with no rehearsal? I don't want to do that.
Right. Don't even know who's going to be
right, that sounds like
the other
you're
musicians.
Asking for a train wreck.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to be involved. But it sounds like they go well most of the time.
Yeah.
And he totally changed my mind about the whole picture of what it means. And then Joe offhandedly said, oh yeah, you could totally do it. And I was like, wow, that's 2 people who believe in me. That's what I do for a living, is I believe in people for a living. It's so amazing.
That's
a
funny way to say it. Yeah, that is some of what we do. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely true.
And so what I've been doing, if you are, friends with me on Facebook or Instagram, you probably are seeing that I'm posting the songs that I am charting and learning each week. It's kind of just like to keep me accountable, but it's also to show people who might want to hire me that I'm hireable.
Right.
And the level to which I'm learning these songs at this pass is I'm trying to write charts that remind me of enough of the song so that if it got called without me being able to practice it in advance, I'd be able to do a passable job.
Right.
So right now I'm not digging in on little extra riffs that are super cool but that aren't important to the song.
Right,
Like
fills.
Yeah, fills. Like in Uptown Funk, there are some super tasty licks in the last minute or so of the song. I'm not worried about those right now. The song hangs together pretty well without those.
Sure, of course, yeah.
On the other hand, we just had a lesson on Waterfalls by TLC. And there's that wah 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 at the beginning.
Yeah.
Which you don't need to play note for note, but needs to be there in some form.
Right.
So I do have to go back and learn some of those things, and there are some songs that are, once in a while, there's a song that's a little bit beyond me. I might have to simplify what I'm doing. Like Footloose, the chorus of Footloose is still too fast for me to play as written, so I'm gonna have to simplify a little bit. Or practice the heck out of it.
Yeah, that bass line is wacky.
It's really fast. Yeah. But Nate gave me a challenge in our last lesson. He called Jesse's Girl on me, and I was like, dude, I charted that a week and a half ago. Pulled it up, and I played it.
And you got it because Jesse's Girl has some surprises.
It does.
Yeah, it's a weird song.
Yeah. But, a lot of these, I would say 3/4 of these songs I know inside out from singing them.
And that's why they're played at weddings and corporate things, is because most people know them pretty well.
Yeah. So this is mostly pretty fast work.
Yeah. Well, you're mowing through them. It's been quite a few songs per week.
Yeah, I'm trying to do 3 a day.
Yeah, 3 a day.
And I'm keeping up with that, aside from being out of town last weekend. So I had 3 days that I didn't do any.
Yeah.
But I did 15 other than that this week, in 5 days. So, yeah, I figure pretty quickly I'll have...
Yeah, you're building up a
few hundred songs.
catalog.
If I keep it up.
Yeah.
If I keep it up. We'll see. I'm into it right now. It's always easy to have, great momentum at the beginning of some new initiative.
Right, and then keeping it up when it's
right.
Been doing it for a year now.
Yeah.
But I got to go back and
songs.
review. Yeah.
But if I do it for a year, I'll have almost 1,000 songs.
Right.
And I already have 150. So.
That's great.
I mean, not from this effort, but songs I've played before from our jams.
Yeah.
When we used to do jams and we would add 10 or 15 songs each time. The thing is, a lot of, now that I know how I'm thinking about playing bass and I have my way of doing charts down, it's different than it used to be. And so for some of these songs, yes, I've played them before, but the charts I made aren't necessarily charts that I would be able to look at and play without review.
Right.
Or they're just not the way that I do them now.
Right.
So a lot of them I'm just redoing charts the way that I do them now.
Yeah.
So that they make more sense to the way my brain's thinking now.
Well, that's obviously important. I really need to go back. I mean, I think my chart, whatever my charts that I have on my iPad, a lot of them are not currently how I do things. A fair amount of them are back when I was doing them, writing them out by hand and then taking a picture and then uploading that to the... Yeah, so they're not pretty. But yeah,
anyway.
Diamond Empire on bass.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see
Officially
how...
a multi...
yeah, I mean,
hyphenate.
It's a milestone for me just to be on the roster.
Yeah.
Honestly. Now, as far as how this works into the rest of my musical life, we will see how that goes.
Sure.
Because the Petty Nicks experience, of course, is very high priority, and I don't want to prevent bookings of that band because that prevents 6 other people from making money. And of course Cody Qualls is high priority and Pamela is high priority. I really like working with original artists. So, I may not be able to take Diamond Empire gigs that are booked very far out, to be honest. So.
Well, and it's already summer, so
it's
a lot of stuff is already planned. Yeah, that's definitely, but cool milestone, and it'll it's a next way to go. Let's talk Cody gigs.
All right.
So Friday.
Ooh, yeah.
Friday we were at the historic Bluebird Theater in downtown Denver. It is right on Colfax, which is Colfax was the Route 66 from the classic era of Americana. Route 66 goes right through Denver, and that is Colfax, and this theater is right there. What was your thought about the gig? We played with Andy Sito, super cool singer-songwriter, great band, killer drummer, unbelievable drummer. I have to look him up. I talked to him for 1 minute, but I gotta look him up. And Alec, his guitar player, is great.
And also the opening act, Mike
Ring. Yeah, worth checking out.
They knocked it out of the park.
They knocked it out of the park. So much energy and just Yeah, we're gonna hear more from them, I'm sure.
Yeah, I checked out his Facebook page. He looks like he's pretty active.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
he's
yeah,
doing
we're
stuff.
gonna yeah.
So, gosh, I mean, it was just fun to be on that stage in that cool venue. You know, it's not huge.
No.
It's smaller than I realized or than I remembered from
Yeah.
when we played there. But still, to be on a big stage with big sound and a big enthusiastic crowd, and the multiple levels and the balcony and
Yeah, because it's a great theater in that, it really slopes up so that the seats in the back you can see perfectly well. There are theaters and venues where it's the one downside of the Mission. It's flat unless you're up in the bleachers or the balcony, and so if you're towards the back, you're trying to look over people. But the Bluebird is very steep, and yeah, just a really cool, energetic crowd. Just loud and really responsive to everything.
yeah,
Cody was great.
yeah,
The gig flew by.
yeah.
I checked the time because we had 45 minutes, and on multiple band nights, usually you don't want to go over. And I looked down and I was like, oh, we are not halfway through the set, but we are halfway through our time.
And Cody didn't even talk very much at this one.
Right. It just flew.
Yeah.
It just flew. So I was waiting till we had 10 minutes left to be like,
2 songs.
you got 2. I didn't want to say anything earlier and make it this big discussion or
Right.
debate. It was just like, skip to the last 2.
Yeah.
So, but that said, it just great energy. The band was great.
It's just an elevated state of being when you have a gig that feels momentous or important.
Right.
No, this is an AEG gig, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
AEG.
So AEG books, most of, well, not most, but a lot of the bigger venues in town.
Right.
So being booked at an AEG venue and doing well can lead to more opportunities down the way. And
Right.
so I know it meant a lot to Cody, and for that reason, it just felt so extra special.
Right. And we had a great band dinner at Mezcal, which is a Mexican restaurant right across, because I guess Mexican and music go together. It's right across Colfax, and it's right next to Goosetown, where we do showcases and stuff sometimes. So we had a great band dinner, and
Oh, and then we
got
went
to
next.
hang out.
We went next door to Goosetown to meet whoever's booking there now. It was Howard.
Is
Howard
the general
is
manager?
The GM who
Yeah.
books there now.
Yeah.
We exchanged numbers, and he gave us pickle shots.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was really excited for us to try his pickle shot recipe, which was not just pickles. It also had hot peppers.
Yeah.
So it was spicy, and basically what that is vodka, I would assume. That they steep and make
Yeah.
and gosh, it sure took care of the alcohol taste. It was just kind of
Didn't
pickle
taste like
and
alcohol
hot
at all.
At all.
I was wondering if there was even any alcohol in it.
There might not have been very much, actually, because I sure didn't feel it. So
Yeah.
there might not have been much, because I think I would have. But it was delicious. It was really good.
It was surprising because I thought pickle juice sounded awful.
Yeah, but we wanted to be polite. So we were like, yeah, sure, we'll take it. And
It was better than I thought.
yeah, it was.
Well, I mean, I told him I thought it sounded disgusting.
Yeah, no, I know. But we went ahead and tried it, and it was gosh, it was great. The heat on the back of it just erased any alcohol taste whatsoever. So anyway, thanks to Howard and thanks to Mezcal.
Any takeaways or unpopular opinions?
Takeaways from the Bluebird. I would say for me, I really got caught. We had a super quick changeover. So there's 3 bands. There were technically 15-minute changeovers. The changeover is when one band gets off stage, the other band gets on stage. And Mike, who we know from the Oriental, was running monitors. So it's a sound guy that we've worked with a ton. And Mike's great. And we made the changeover super fast, just 8 minutes or something. We were kind of ready to go, and me and Mike were I was over by Monitor World where the monitor board is on the side of the stage, and I was like, That was too easy, right? We're like forgetting something, right? And he was like, I feel the same way. Like, what did we forget? Like that just went like so easy. And then we had to do one or two things, and there were a few questions, and I had to run off stage, and I forget what I had to grab or handle. And then before you knew it, like, I thought I still had a minute to get off stage and then make a big band entrance, but no, kind of just, we felt like we had all the time in the world, and then all of a sudden it was showtime, and it was like, well, I guess we're just going.
Oh.
And it was a real reminder to watch that clock and be defensive about your time. I mean, I think sometimes I was just talking to an artist development client this week. Like, in general, on those multi-band nights, you can't say like, "Hey, I'm going on late because blah blah blah." But in general, you should be defensive of your time to get yourself set and get yourself centered.
Oh.
And get yourself ready and get your game face on and do your whole thing. And I have my little get ready for the show thing, and I'll be fine if I don't do that, but I'm gonna be better if I get 2 seconds to get my head in it. I I shouldn't say famously, but I everybody knows, like, I sort of refuse to go on stage without going to the bathroom first, and a lot of times it's not about going to the bathroom, it's about I need 30 seconds to myself to just...
That's why you always disappear right when it's time to go on stage.
I always do. Because I need a second.
Yeah.
Just me.
I don't think you do it as much anymore, but it used to be the case that it was always like, all right, time to get on stage. Where's Justin? Every single gig that I did with you for years.
Yeah.
You're always, like, everybody was here a second ago. Justin's gone now.
You need to be defensive about your time.
You should go to the bathroom earlier.
Yeah. Well, it works best if you, like, get set, if you get set and then you go, like, talk to people for another 5 minutes, you're not set anymore, Yeah. Okay, I disagree with your version, you disagree with my version. Anyway.
So our opinions are unpopular among...
it's an unpopular opinion in the house.
Yeah. We might need to bring Shanti in for the tie-breaking.
She's gonna side with you, no doubt.
Always,
yeah. Anyway, my takeaway was just, like, watching that time, man. We got set and we were good in 10 minutes, and that last 5 minutes just evaporated on me, and I would have hit it a little harder, and I would have felt a little more settled if I was ready to go. Mm-hmm. And what I was telling my artist development client is a lot of shows where it isn't all that vital, you can totally be like, hey, I know setups running, whatever, there were technical issues or I need 2 minutes to get set before I started, instead of starting from this, like, frazzled,
right.
I mean, you have to be able to do both, but if you really want to do your best show, it is okay to be polite and, like, hey, I just need 2 minutes to, like, get my head straight.
Yeah.
And it's important to do both. That was my takeaway for that one, was just watching the time.
Yeah.
And, not
yeah.
getting so rushed.
I have a tiny takeaway.
Yeah.
It's nothing really, but I'm going to say it anyway. So we backlined bass, meaning the headliner allowed the opener and direct support to both use their bass and drums. Which
was super cool of them.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, with 15-minute changeover, it's pretty much required, but it's still nice of them to let us use their gear. So the headliner checked first, and then we sound checked after them. And so we got up on stage, and I took a mental note of the EQ settings that he had on his bass, and I changed them a little bit, and I'm wishing I didn't. I did put them back where they were after we played, but he had them kind of fanned out, so, like, the lowest lows were turned way down, the mid lows were turned down a little. I don't know if there was a middle band or not, but the mid highs were turned up a little bit and the high highs were turned up a lot. So it was this fan for the EQs. And I was like, I don't think I want it quite that wide, so I just, like, I brought it in just a little, but I, like, took this mental picture of, like, here's where it was. So my takeaway is, first, number one, I probably shouldn't have touched his dials at all. I probably should just left them where they were. I didn't change them enough to make a difference anyway. It just looked extreme to me.
Right.
But I did put them back, so I feel good about that. But so let's see. So it was the openers that played on that same rig, and then we played. And so I went and looked at the settings when we got back up on stage, because I was like, well, I wonder if he changed them after I changed them. And he hadn't changed them from what I had put them on. So I was like, maybe it is probably just normal decorum to just not touch the settings on someone else's rig if you're borrowing it, because he obviously did not touch what I had set.
Right.
So I set it, but I did set it back to what the headliner had it set on. Big messy thing to say, but like I hadn't really thought about that before, because I haven't been playing bass in a multi-band setup before that was backlined. So that was a tiny new experience.
And we were saying, we don't do that many shows now where we aren't the only band. Like most of the time we are the only act playing. And so we're not so used to that. I mean, I would say etiquette, if we're talking about that, etiquette is either, don't touch other people's stuff, / it's probably fine if you do make a note of where their stuff is and make sure it goes back.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that can't be, I think I've complained on the podcast, and I've seen drummers do it in rehearsal spaces and even at gigs, and they'll like get behind somebody's kit and start tuning somebody else's drums the way they want it, and you go, like, you can't undo that. Like, that's screwed up now.
Yeah.
And
that's not cool.
that is completely against etiquette. Never, that's the worst.
I used the word decorum earlier. I was looking for the word etiquette.
Yeah, decorum.
Wrong word.
Yeah, it's close. It's
I'm
ballpark.
a little tired. A little sick.
Although that's an example maybe, and here's a takeaway. That's an example maybe of listening with your eyes a little bit, like just seeing how widely spread those knobs were and going like, that seems like a lot. I'm not criticizing or whatever, because I do it too, but like sometimes it's like, well, maybe like play with it for a second.
Yeah.
And
could have to do with the room.
It could have to do with the room. It could just, that's an easy, easy thing to do. Anyway, Bluebird Theater, great show, great staff. Everybody was good. Chris from Soiled Dove was running sound for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was there running front of house.
Oh,
for
cool,
us.
Cool.
So Mike and Chris, thank you so much. And then Saturday night, we were at what was that?
It was a Unity Spiritual Center. So like a church, but for...
It was a Unitarian church, basically. Yeah, but they had a concert series, I guess they were doing. Summer concert series, and I think we were one of the first for the summer. Obviously, it's just summer, and what a great crowd.
Oh my gosh. They loved it.
The hottest crowd.
Singing along, dancing from like the second song. Like they got up and danced.
They were just
so quickly.
dancing like
so
crazy.
We threw the set list out the window, and Cody was just calling it because they were up there dancing.
Calling songs. Yeah. Yeah, I think we were all a little surprised at how much they wanted to dance, because it was supposed to be this big outdoor thing. They had this beautiful grounds and fields and all this stuff, and it was supposed to be outdoors, but we mentioned it has been raining nonstop, so they moved us indoors into not the chapel or whatever, but they had like a meeting hall area, and we were in there, and just people were
ready to go. Yeah.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, my only takeaway from that was like it's funny how setting and situation doesn't matter. Like, it's hard not to sound pretentious, but like, let me say it, and showing a crowd a good time is sort of the same outside of setting. Like, there's this like, the putting the energy into the room and trying to keep up with them, and like moving set list stuff if you have to, or there were a couple things we extended because everybody was dancing, and you go like, okay, we're in this very nice community center type situation, but all the same ideas apply. Like, it isn't
right.
It isn't different. It's kind of like a crowd is a crowd, and once they're having a good time, like all the same rules apply of keep it moving, and et cetera, et cetera. And Cody did a great job of moving the set list around, and then we had some slow numbers that we just had to do because we have them, and we're not going to make the full 2 hours without it. and he did a good job of pushing them to the right spot, so it was a good time for everybody to slow dance for a couple numbers.
And they stayed on the dance floor for that.
And they stayed on the dance floor for that, and then it came back up. And then this evening, I played with Cody acoustic. You were there because we had a student showcase. Maybe let's cover that first.
Yeah.
So today, student showcase at the Muse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was fairly short, an hour and 15 minutes maybe.
Right, but a great crowd.
Yeah,
Pretty full room.
The place was full.
Very full room.
Yeah, so this is, everyone from, gosh, who was the youngest girl? The one with the
Willow?
puppet? Willow. Oh my gosh. So she looks like she's maybe 7.
Maybe 7.
And
tiny.
Oh my gosh. She did 3 songs and she knocked it out of the park. I like, now second time using that phrase in this. Anyway, people are doing great jobs around us. She sang her first song with confidence, and then she sang her second song with, like, she took the mic off the stand and was like, well, she had like planned stage moves and stuff that was like going with the song. And then the third song, she ran back to her table and grabbed a ventriloquist dummy and sang and performed with that for the third song.
So it was like a duet, but she was doing the ventriloquist dummy, and it was some song about how we're mad at each other. And the dummy had parts, and then she had parts. It was unbelievable.
It was the first time.
When she was like, wait, and I gotta go back into the crowd and get something before my third song. I thought it was like a hat.
Right.
Ventriloquist dummy was not even on the list of things she was maybe gonna bring back up.
It was almost as big as she was too.
It totally was.
Anyway, it was.
She had just an incredible variety of performers. I mean, all performance high people.
Except for one.
Except for Desiree Gold's.
Yeah, Desiree Gold's student Megan came and performed.
Megan, Astral Rose. Mm-hmm. But gosh, people accompanied by piano, playing piano and singing, playing guitar and singing, accompanied by Raylyn, accompanied somebody on acoustic guitar. It was just an incredible variety of situations. Mm-hmm. I wound up running sound, which I was not planning on doing, but
thank you.
No, it was fine. It was not even hard. It was great, and but it was just a great variety of stuff. Alyssa and Mike got up and opened and closed the show, did a few songs, and yeah.
And my student Heidi, who I do online lessons with, she's up in Boulder. She played a Ben Folds song on piano.
Gosh!
That in itself is a hard song to play on piano.
Just the piano.
And she sang along with it too.
Yeah.
So she's never done both before.
Because it wasn't just a lot of that Ben Folds stuff. It isn't just like chords. It's like real piano parts where you're like you have like really moving melodic parts, but then you're singing something different on top of it.
She did great.
I was blown for the first time. I was really blown away.
Yeah.
But I was blown away by really everybody did great. Kevin Corrigan, his voice. His voice is killer. He did a punk rock, acoustic punk rock thing.
I know, he surprised me. Like,
oh my gosh.
He seemed so, like, laid back, and then it came out, like, the first line, I was like, whoa, big voice.
Yeah.
Oh, and Chris Cross.
Chris Cross.
Oh my God, that kid.
Blew me away. I told him afterwards, I was like, you were amazing. Like, that was so great. And that was Raylyn on acoustic and him singing. And I didn't recognize the song, but just the performance was...
He's got some soul.
It just tore the gravel. It just tore the room down. I mean, people were just like losing their minds. Yeah, it was really... it was so interesting too because Sammy Davis, performance high teacher, but also a million other things, has done the dueling pianos thing and is in Rocket Surgeons and solo. Has a great solo career going. You can look up Sammy Davis.
Sami.
Yeah, Sammy
Davis.
Yeah. But it was so funny because she's played piano professionally, and when she played, it was a real grand piano. And when she played it, it was like twice as loud as like everybody else. It's just, there's something about professional piano players. It's like the attack. It's like when a real drummer hits a snare drum.
Yeah.
And like you could go hit that snare drum and it's not going to sound as good or like nearly as loud. You could just like hit it as hard as you can and the drummer just goes tap, tap, and you're like, whoa, it's so loud.
Oh, it's like that friend of yours you told me that you recorded way back and she could hit the piano so hard it made your ears hurt. Remember?
Oh, yeah,
with like her pinky or something?
I recorded
what was that story?
Well, I recorded a lot of stuff actually for a professional concert pianist, classical pianist who now lives in Istanbul, Turkey, and has her career going in Europe and whatever, and based in Istanbul. But classical piano player, and I recorded a bunch of stuff with her, and I would set mics up and do the mic check, and I would literally bang on the keys with my hands as hard as I could with my fists. And then she would get up and start playing.
So you would set the levels based on.
I was trying to set the make sure it wouldn't overload or clip or overload the microphones. So it just bang on the piano, and then she would come in and start playing, and it would be like, that is twice as loud as me hitting the piano as hard as I can with my fists. Just an unbelievable amount of. It really was like, if you were close to the piano, you were just like, oh God, like,
wow,
so loud, and it was just somebody that just had the. It's really the technique. It's not like it's just force and muscle of hitting the keys that hard. It's just the right pinging it just right, so that you just kind of like. It's sort of like the drum analogy, and if you get right down to it, a piano is a percussion instrument because the sound is being made by something hitting something else, right? So the when you hit the key and then a hammer hits a string. So, but the drum analogy, and that's why really good drummers with good technique can often make the sound just jump out of the drums, is if you hit the drum and you don't really know what you're doing, there's a moment where the stick digs in and is actually muting that head for a second, and then you lift it up. But a great drummer is just the thing hits and then he's off of it immediately. So it just, and I think the same thing happens with piano players where they're just hitting it with this and they're using the pedal to sustain the notes, but they're just doing it so that hammer isn't like hitting and momentarily muting the string. It's just like just exciting it or something, and it just makes the sound jump out of it. And Sammy had that thing where it was just like, I was like turning the vocal up and up and up because I was like, I can't turn the piano down because we're just in a room. But anyway, great student showcase. That was really exciting. I should really make an effort to go to more of the acoustic ones, which I used to and then wasn't for a little while. But yeah, it was a blast. And then we went to it was a benefit for children of Nepal, and we Hazel Miller, the Colorado famous Hazel Miller, was headlining the thing, and Cody and I did a 30-40 minute acoustic set to open, and then Hazel got up and did the song Colorado, which is on YouTube, and it has the video and the blah blah blah. We've talked about it a bunch. Cody's song. But Hazel was a guest vocalist on that song, so her whole band came up and we did that together, full band with her band. So it was interesting doing that song with a totally different band and not the way we did it live.
Yeah, how did it feel? Was it any different?
It was good. I mean, the drummer took a lot more organic approach to it, but it was really cool. It not being to the tracks and kind of the high production pop thing that we do with Cody. It was a great way for the drummer to take it, and Cody, Hazel's guitar player Cody, not Cody Qualls, but Hazel's guitar player Cody, did a killer job on the solo stuff, and I was just playing acoustic guitar, and I was so flattered that the bass player learned my fills, because on the song Colorado, everything but the vocals and the guitar solo are me. I played the drums and the piano and the rhythm guitars and the bass and everything, and the bass player actually learned the fills, and it was like, I was like, oh, that's awesome that you felt like my fills were enough for the part of the song that you like learned them. And even like the keyboard player or something said something to him and was like, oh, you got the fills, and he was like, yeah, man, I'm playing it how the man on the record played it, and I was like, that was me. Yeah, it was funny. I didn't say that, but anyway, yeah, not much to learn from that gig. It just went great, and people were super nice. And Cody and I never play acoustic guitar. I never play acoustic guitar except live, and but luckily we've done enough with Cody recently that we've kind of worked out sort of how we do the songs acoustic, and I think it's a decent little thing. So anyway, that was
cool.
Yeah, it was a packed weekend.
Yeah.
And we should maybe wrap this up.
Yes, let's wrap it up.
Yeah. So, we are sponsored, as always, by Performance High.
Voice and Music Studio.
And the good people at Mescal on Colfax.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, you want to get some Mexican food and you're down that part of town, Mescal is great.
I was going to say Goosetown's Pickle Shots.
Goosetown's Pickle Shots. We've got 2 sponsors. This is becoming a very commercial podcast.
Sorry for all the
There's going to be a lot more ads. It's just we're so popular now that so many people. So, if you're in the mood for pickle juice, Goosetown Tavern, Mexican food, mezcal,
A little bit spicy.
Yeah, and again, really, thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
We always appreciate it, and we'll just see you next week.
Yeah. Have a good week.